Welcome to The Journalist. Tensions in the Red Sea between the U.S., the U.K., and the Houthis have risen to new heights with mutual airstrikes. The Houthis in Yemen are targeting every ship passing through the Red Sea. This includes civilian oil and cargo ships, as well as cruisers and destroyers belonging to the U.S. and U.K. navies. These days, Houthi attacks have been concentrated in the narrow Bab al-Mandeb Strait, which connects the Gulf of Aden to the Red Sea. So far, the Iranian-backed group has attempted over 30 attacks along the tense line. In response, the U.S. and U.K. have carried out 9 retaliatory strikes against the Houthis in Yemen. 2 of these strikes were a joint U.S.-UK initiative, while 7 airstrikes were carried out by the U.S. Navy. Following the retaliatory strikes, more than 60 Houthi military assets in Yemen were destroyed, reducing the Houthis' combat capability by 30 to 40%. These included Iranian-made missile launchers, IHA bases, and a large number of weapons, military equipment, and vehicles. Most recently, the Houthis carried out an airstrike targeting the British oil tanker Marlin Luanda, 60 nautical miles southeast of the Gulf of Aden. Houthi military spokesman Yahya Saraya said that 2 naval missiles were used in the attack. Unfortunately, the Houthi missiles hit the ship directly. The ship burst into flames after the attacks. This situation raised the tension in the region to its peak. Hours after the Houthi attacks on the Marlin Luanda, the United States and United Kingdom pressed the button for a joint operation. The coalition is on high alert. This morning, the U.S. and U.K. announced their 3rd joint strike against the Houthis, marking the 10th strike in total against the Iranian-backed group in the region. The Houthis' Al-Masirah media source reported on Saturday that the U.S. and the U.K. carried out 2 airstrikes targeting the port of Ras Issa, Yemen's main oil export terminal. The joint move by the U.S. and U.K. comes after Houthi rebels in Yemen stepped up attacks on ships transiting the Red Sea, including an airstrike on Friday that caused a fire on a British fuel tanker. Central Command CENTCOM announced that the U.S. military had destroyed a Houthi anti-ship missile targeting the Red Sea that was ready for launch. This has greatly shaken the Houthis in Yemen. On the other hand, the U.S. military announced that the Marlin Luanda tanker, operating on behalf of the trading company Trafigura, was damaged in the attacks on the port of Ras Issa. However, the U.S. Navy's USS Carney arrived to help the Marlin Luanda. No injuries were reported on board with the Carney's intervention. Which side will now mobilize in the region? It seems likely that the Houthis in Yemen will continue their attacks on U.S. and U.K. Navy forces, including civilian oil and cargo ships in the Red Sea. As you know, most recently, Houthi military spokesman Yahya Saraya said that tensions in the Red Sea will not end until the war between Israel and Hamas is over. However, the latest joint U.S. and U.K. airstrikes in the region may force the Houthis to back down. At the very least, the Iranian-backed group will once again have to consider the deterrence in the region when launching attacks on civilian oil and cargo ships. Among the best deterrents against the Houthis in the Red Sea are the destroyers and cruisers of the U.S. and U.K. navies. The joint U.S. and U.K. airstrikes against the Houthis have once again demonstrated the importance of providing a cordon sanitaire for civilian oil and cargo ships in the region. In particular, U.S. officials shared critical assessments about naval assets in the region. According to these assessments, important developments have emerged on how the Houthi threat in the Red Sea can be completely eliminated. The commander of the U.S. Navy and other officers praised the work of Navy destroyers in the Red Sea, which have shot down numerous attack drones and missiles fired by the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen since October. But the praise from Vice Admiral Brendan McLean and other leaders has been tempered by frustration that ships like Carney, Gravely, Mason, Laboon, and Thomas Hoodner are fighting without a potential key asset. This is because of the long-planned and hard-to-find laser systems. Will these systems spell the end of the Houthis? High-energy lasers, or HELS, and high-power microwaves, or HMPs, offer the surface fleet another weapon against overhead threats, including drones and rockets. According to analysts, despite decades of research and development and billions of dollars spent on a threat like the one the U.S. Navy is currently facing in the Red Sea, such systems have yet to meaningfully penetrate the surface fleet and the military more broadly. In a call with reporters, Brendan McLean described the pace of glacier development as frustrating. McClain told reporters ahead of the Surface Navy Association conference this month that when he was in Bahrain 10 years ago, as commander of Destroyer Squadron 50, the USS Ponce had a laser on its floating base. Indeed, to date, only a very small number of ships have laser capabilities, and very few directed energy vehicles have made the successful transition from science fiction to real life. Experts and government reviews argue that the development of such futuristic weapons is as challenging and potentially game-changing as it is valuable. According to analysts, directed energy could complement the range of weapons readily available to a U.S. destroyer in the Red Sea, and their widespread fielding could signal a revolution in military affairs at the level of fighter jets and missiles. But analysts say directed energy could also help crews maintain a limited supply of ammunition while on station. Verification of more than 60 drones and missiles hurtling towards Navy ships and commercial vessels in the Red Sea relied heavily on the Standard Missile-2, or SM-2, but service officials declined to say exactly what was fired in each engagement. The U.S. Department of Defense spends an average of $1 billion a year to develop HEL and HPM weapons for deployment on ground vehicles, aircraft, and ships. At least $669 million has been requested for unclassified research, test, and evaluation in fiscal year 2023, with another $345 million for unclassified acquisitions. But bridging the so-called Valley of Death, the lag between private development and military procurement and field technology, has proved difficult, according to the Government Accountability Office. According to U.S. reports, the Department of Defense has struggled to get these technologies out of the lab and into the field for a variety of reasons, including the difficulty in determining how forces will use them during missions. The reports also warn that without early transition planning and drafting of transition agreements, the Navy risks developing technology incompatible with operational needs. While analysts note that developing such capabilities isn't easy, Eric Wertheim, author, defense consultant, and columnist for the U.S. Naval Institute, calls the full deployment of directed energy weapons a sacred mission. He believes that the absence of HEL or HPM systems on ships is not a failure of procurement, but rather an unsolved hardware and software-based puzzle. Eric Wertheim also noted that finding a power source for directed energy weapons and space for such systems on a ship full of energy-hungry sensors and battle management systems is a serious obstacle. While lasers can punch holes in various materials, certain atmospheric conditions such as fog or wind can block or distort the shot. High-power microwaves can produce an almost instant glow effect on electronic guts, but they are less effective over greater distances. U.S. destroyers already have Lockheed Martin's high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzle and surveillance and the Navy's own optical dazzle interceptor. The former was specifically designed to intercept drones and small, agile boats, the kind of threats that Houthi militants have been looting shipping channels with. In addition, the Helios system, installed on the destroyer Preble in 2022, has now passed a little beyond the experimental phase. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer platforms also have Helios-like capabilities. In 2020 and 2021, the Navy tested a high-energy laser on another type of ship, the amphibious transport dock Portland. The ship has more power to support larger laser weapons and has continued to disable targets in the Pacific Ocean. Laser and microwave installations have their own strengths and weaknesses. Neither requires mechanical reloading like a rifle or tank. These features are particularly important in a war scenario where Navy supply lines would be threatened. But these systems could indeed spell the end of the Houthis, who are creating tensions in the Red Sea. This is why the United States continues to work on the subject. In the coming days, we may see more U.S. destroyers and cruisers equipped and ready with such systems in the Red Sea. Thank you for following us.